Hello and welcome to our career interview with Ms. Janine Harris. Joining me today for this interview is high school student Adler Carl. So Ms. Harris, we'll start with the first question. If you could tell us about your professional background and what has been your journey to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah, so I work in conservation, in habitat conservation for fish. So the way I got to that as a career was through an interest in natural sciences and being outside in the environment and observing kind of the natural world around me. I think it started younger as an interest in animals that I realized wasn't animals that we have like living in our house, but the animals that are living outside in a forest or a wetland or rivers and the ocean. So I slowly came to my profession mostly through school and small job opportunities and internships that I took along the way that helped me kind of craft something that wasn't known to me or my family or my friends, and kind of figure out what that meant, what my interest in animals and outdoors meant. And that's how I landed in conservation. Currently, I work for the federal government. So I work in Washington, D.C., where a lot of work for the federal government happens. And a lot of natural resource work does happen with the federal government because our resources are spread out across the whole country, and animals move across state borders, water moves across state borders. So the work that a lot of environmental and habitat conservation work happens at that kind of broader level, not always at the small level. So that's kind of where I'm involved, at that broad level where it crosses all our borders. And I got there through some internships that were a little bit more local and work that was a little bit more local, like in New York City, doing environmental conservation in a big urban area. So that was a new exploration for me to get to where I am now. So a little bit more kind of work in an area, and then now I do more of that broad work across the country.
Nice. So can you walk us through a typical day for you? What does that look like, and what are your experiences throughout a typical day?
Yeah, so now my days are pretty much all at a desk. So I would encourage you kind of end up there, I think, a lot of times, but I interact with a lot of other people at my organization, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So we're career habitat conservationists that work in things like weather data and water data, and also just understanding communities and how to kind of provide funding to give funding out to applicants that come to us. So I also sometimes am talking this is all happening at a desk. I'm also sometimes talking with communities that are looking to use our resources to help their conservation. So for example, if someone has a stream that they want to restore to make sure that fish are happy living in that stream and reproducing and maybe migrating out of the Hudson River, for example, I might talk to someone up in Albany or in New York and describe how we can help them make a good project for fish that are living in their area. So it's meetings, it's time at the computer, and it's a lot of time talking with people and collaborating and communicating.
In some of your previous work, did you have field experience in this area, like out in the field?
I did, and that stuff is definitely encouraged and more exciting than like the day-to-day. But yes, I did a few jobs where I was out there actually seeing the organisms I was helping or evaluating in the field, what does the habitat look like? What are the needs? And creating a project that could get those resources to actually be done on the ground. So I worked for quite a few years in the Bronx River in New York, and I worked with community groups to all kind of come together to make a project work, because usually it's not just one person doing a project. So I worked with some students and with Parks Department employees to really come together and create projects that we thought would improve habitat for fish there. So one project is that they put like a ladder. Sometimes fish have trouble moving from one place to another because we've created dams or something that makes it difficult. So we created a ladder, which the fish hopefully can jump up the steps that we've created so they could get over the dam. So that was like a nice practical project that I worked on with a lot of partners in the Bronx. Yeah. And then other small internships along the way, observing birds, observing other habitats, and taking data in the field were all like foundational to getting where I am now, which is not working in those habitats anymore. But all of those jobs were important to get here. Yeah.
What would you say you love most about your job?
I think it's really exciting when we get to actually call and tell people, we can give you funding for that project. We realize that that's a main responsibility I have now is providing funding. And sometimes it's pretty large amounts of funding that are really going to make a project go forward. So it's very exciting to call up an applicant and say, you put in all this great work, we reviewed your proposal and you ranked really highly, and congratulations, you're going to get some funding. And then start kind of a relationship for a couple of years with that group to help them with their project. So that's definitely exciting. And sometimes I do get to learn about habitats around the country that are new to me because I haven't lived in all the places that some of the projects I work in are. So it's exciting to learn more about salmon projects in the Northwest or some recreational fishing projects in the Gulf of Mexico. I kind of get to touch a little bit of everything. So that's kind of fun too.
What do you think your favorite place you've worked at would be? Like you mentioned, you worked with problems in the Gulf of Mexico and places like that.
I do think maybe my favorite work was in New York City, I worked for the Parks Department there, but I think I did like interacting and having a little bit more of like a hybrid role where I had a lot of day-to-day tasks kind of in the comfort of, you have some things to do at the office, but also got to go outside and see more of what I was working on. So I think that hybrid approach was probably preferable. Yeah, and I think I really enjoyed that.
And then what kind of skills are needed for the job, such as communication, problem solving, teamwork, and then are there more trainable skills that you would need?
Yeah, I think a lot of my work involves communication and working with different personalities or different skill sets and being able to um, make sure to translate information from one group to another in a way that's clear and moves kind of projects forward. There are some trainable skills that such as in what are the needs of fish to move from one area to another, really to understand that and make sure that we are picking projects that do get at those real needs, or understanding how water flows in a certain system to make sure to ask questions or encourage partners to maybe adapt some parts of their work to make sure it really does meet the needs of the fish we're looking at. But I'd say the skills are more in the communication and working with people than in the technical side for where I'm sitting. Yeah. So the more experiences to kind of practice talking with people, presenting, all of those experiences make it kind of build the skill set and communicating with others.
How about challenges? What are some challenges that you face in your position?
Yeah, we have challenges working in the federal government. There's some challenges that are kind of out of your control, and it feels a little bit unfortunate that we could have some great ideas or have partners we know really need our funding and we've worked together well, but we have kind of obstacles that are a little like above us that, sometimes the funding doesn't come through until very late and then we have to kind of rush through a process. So I think those challenges, those are currently happening. So they're on my mind because they're happening right now. But I think those challenges where you feel like you're doing your best and you really can't kind of push forward through some processes. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And with natural resources, we always want like more information. We never quite have enough information. We often hear from our applicants, well, we don't really know what the fish are doing in the system now, but we want to do this to change it. So there's always this uncertainty of what you're going to do is actually going to solve your problem, which is just because we often don't have enough information to start. So that's a challenge that kind of is there all the time in the kind of work we're doing that would be at any level of work, whether it's federal or state, just that need to sometimes make decisions with incomplete information and just go and hope that the project does benefit the fish. Those are probably two bigger challenges we have.
Yeah. What advice would you have for a student interested in going into this profession, such as any middle school or high school classes that you may have taken or heard about recently?
Yeah. So I never took an environmental science class in high school. They were just coming on like AP Environmental Science. So if those kinds of classes are available, I definitely suggest things that kind of get you to take that core science that you learn, which is really important and really important in high school because, um, it's kind of there right in front of you to take some chemistry and biology. But the classes that kind of broaden your horizons a little bit to get outside, look at things a little differently, I think I would definitely recommend. So I know there's things like AP Environmental Science. There may be even more specific classes now that are in like watersheds or wetlands. But also just that like kind of curiosity to learn about a diverse amount of things. Like wood shop is helpful sometimes, classes that get you into photography, because there's a whole variety of computer science, all of those skills. Environmental science is just so broad right now. There's mapping and computers and data science that goes into it. So I feel like just taking the broad approach to understanding all of those bits of it is something that I would definitely recommend for someone in high school and college to really take a wide kind of look at it rather than kind of get narrowly focused on, let's say, like chemistry as keeping those broad classes, I think, is helpful. And a lot of it is kind of hands-on stuff. So if you like to get out there and like create things, that's definitely something that those other skills could come in. And then of course communicating. So like it's always helpful to be presenting or communications classes specifically, history classes to really understand kind of the whole breadth. So take it all. That's not the best, but yeah. Be broad.
Right, so Ms. Harris, we're coming to the end of our time with you today. Is there anything else you'd like to add for students who would be watching this and interested in going into this field?
Yeah, I think just kind of the last moment, I really think like taking advantage of experiences that come your way, and it's fun. Environmental science is fun. So like it's okay to realize, oh, I'm having a really good time. Like that's great. You can have a really good time as you try to figure out what you like and be outside and meet people. Yeah, I found like I've met the kind of the best people through my job. Getting out in the field, having problems, making mistakes, being dirty, that's like where you really make connections. So we just encourage people to do that.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And I appreciate the message that you're sending about the importance of communication and just working together in teams, right? Because those really are transferable skills that are so valuable in so many areas. So it's great to hear you sharing that advice of focusing on those skill sets. So thank you for your time today.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you.